Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
A young man interviewed his grandmother for part of a research paper he was working on for his psychology class. When he asked her to define success in her own words, she said, "Success is when you look back at your life and the memories make you smile." Boy, that's the truth. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Morning, morning. Thank you very much, Kate Smith, and God bless America. I certainly hope he will again. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal, getting rid of your garbage. Call them at 734-6969. I never say it enough because we never show our appreciation enough to people that we really care about and that help us. But my thanks go out always for the great job that both this lovely lady over at the main studios, Gina, and my lovely wife, Deanne. Good morning. They both do a wonderful job.
Thank you so much, and good morning to you. It's going to be a beautiful day, I hope.
I'm glad you put that caveat in there. You know,
it will be better than it was yesterday.
If we have any open spaces during the program this morning, there's a couple of things I really want to run by you, and that is obesity and quarantines. I want to talk to you about those if we get a chance later on today.
Okay, all right.
Do we have a caller?
We have Mr. Carl Clark on for the pledge and Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Very good. Carl, the pledge, please. Go ahead.
Good morning, Zeb. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent, Carl. You always do a wonderful job. Good to hear from you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Zeb, and I want you to have the same.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much. I've been blessed with so many great friendships in this area. Thank you very much. Hey, it's time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Oh my goodness. Look for the blue door. Look for the blue door and go in and check out all the repurposed furniture and check out all the decorations for Halloween and Christmas. And by the way, too, don't forget they will meet or beat any price on flooring. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. And look for the blue door. Here now is Michael Rogers.
38 degrees. Looking for cooler temperatures still for today. Forecast calling for a mix of sun and clouds. The official term, we like to call it partly cloudy for today. 61 for the high is what we're looking for a high today. 37 for the overnight low. Clouds will roll in tomorrow, but still right now rain in our forecast. And what I guess are gathering. So otherwise, it's just a cool fall day in the Magic Valley. Enjoy the weather still.
Thank you, Michael. We appreciate it. Michael Rogers Weather brought to you, everybody, by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. As I said, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. 945. Look for their blue door. Really, really nice people. Hey, by the way, every Thursday means sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Number to call the office, 678-9411. Another rip and good sale last week. Holy smokes, did they have the numbers? Did they have the calves? And they're going to have another one this week. For consignments, call the office number, 678-9411, or give a holler to Merv May at 431-5735, Cade Rogge at 431-0074, or Lance Udy, 431-4174. They are the sale that works for you. Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley, with a sale at 10 a.m. on Thursdays. Don't you miss it. Really ripping good sales. By the way, this Thursday, this week, audience, pay attention, please, is Lunch Bunch, and it is our Halloween Lunch Bunch. And we're going to give some extra prizes to the people that wear the best mask and also the best costume. And we also want to thank Walmart, Hanson Mortuary, and Smith's, along with Denny's, for all their support. This is going to be on Thursday at 11:30. Everybody be there, okay? Daryl's Cleaners. Hello, Kevin. Hello, Cindy. Hello, everybody at Daryl's Cleaners. Man, no cleaner in the universe gets your clothes as spiffed up and looking good, almost like brand spanking new, as Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Yes, sirree, Bobby, I'm telling you. And they can restore a lot of items, too. Some items that you thought you had to throw away, you take them in there to Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. The best. And real quick, too, I want to acknowledge our friends at SafeLink Internet. Idaho's number one choice for wireless high-speed internet. SafeLink Internet Services, you call them, tell them Zeb sent you. They've got great low economical programs for you. 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. No contracts required, no credit checks, unlimited data. Oh, they're good. SafeLink Internet Services, you get a hold of them today. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. I understand that Helen Bradley is having a birthday today, and I would be in deep doo-doo if I forgot her birthday. And so, Helen, dear friend, happy birthday. And I hope that Dal didn't forget and bought her everything she wants for her birthday. There you go. Happy birthday. No Ebola policy by this administration. I'm worried. I'm very concerned. A dear friend of mine back on the East Coast in Maryland, and he is the brother to Frosty Woolridge, and that's Howard Woolridge. Howard is the one that years ago rode his horse all the way across America, Misty, and went all the way to the Oregon coast, stayed here for a couple of days. We got to know him and everything. And Howard disagrees with me on the Ebola policy, but I think he's coming around to see things my way, that this no Ebola policy by this administration is absolutely causing chaos. And people don't know what to do, what not to do, what's in place, what is protected, etc., ad nauseum. Nobody knows. And in just a minute, I am going to read a letter from a veterinarian. Now you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, Zeb, what are you talking about? A letter from a veterinarian. Well, when I read this, you'll understand why. So stand by. I'm going to do a couple of commercials, and we will be right back with that letter from a veterinarian. And as a matter of fact, the vet is from up in Lewiston. Senator Dean Cameron wants you to remember he is a voice of influence, a voice of caring, and a voice for getting things done, and he urges you to go vote on November 4th. That's right. Senator Cameron cares deeply about Idaho and our community, and he works extremely hard to represent and defend you. Senator Dean Cameron has led in the tough economic times, and Idaho is one of the 5 states with a balanced budget. And please remember to vote yes for the Constitution Constitutional Amendment, HJR2. Senator Dean Cameron, Senator for District 27, paid for by Idaho Senator Dean Cameron. Also, real fast, I want to remind you, too, about Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. They're calling for some warmer temperatures. Now listen carefully. For the next couple of days, warmer temperatures, and you might be lulled into a false sense of security. Oh, no, the cold weather is looming out there. And if you've got sprinkler systems, you better get them blown out before they freeze up and really cause you some damage for next year. Don't take that chance. Call Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 336 South, 450 West of Paul. Number to remember, 438-2485, 438-2485. Now, the reason I said that a minute ago is because I wanted to read this letter. It's a little lengthy, so bear with me, and then I'll do a commercial break after it's over. The present Ebola crisis in the world is frightening, and this gentleman submitted the following letter to the editor of the Lewiston Morning Tribune. Okay, hang on. If I wish to import a horse into the United States from Liberia or any African country other than Morocco, the horse needs to undergo a 60-day quarantine period at a USDA-approved quarantine facility prior to mingling with the general population of horses in this country. Africa has a disease called African horse sickness that does not exist in the United States. This is the way we have kept it out of this country. African horse sickness does not cause disease in people, only horses. Our government has determined that it would be devastating to the United States horse industry if it were to come here. The United States and virtually all other countries require a myriad of tests and often quarantine prior to bringing in a foreign animal. I can't legally cross state lines in the United States with a horse or a cow without a health certificate signed by a USDA-accredited veterinarian stating that the animal has been inspected and found free of infectious disease. In most cases, blood tests are also required. In fact, I can't legally cross the Snake River and ride my horse in Idaho without a health certificate and a negative blood test for equine infectious anemia. I'm not complaining. The United States of America, the state of Idaho, and Washington, as well as the other 48 states, take the health of our livestock very seriously. And we have a very good record at keeping foreign animal diseases out of our country. I am happy to do my part to maintain biosecurity in our animal population. If I am a resident of Liberia incubating Ebola to enter the United States, all I need to do is present a valid visa and lie when asked if I have been exposed to Ebola. Within hours, no quarantine required, I can be walking the streets of any United States city. I feel very fortunate to live in a country that values our animals so highly. Think about that letter, and think about the mess that this administration, the absolutely pathetic miscues and falsehoods and non-preparation that this administration has thrown at us. It's chaotic. And the letter is very well served. We take much better care and caution with our animals than we do human beings. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. They'll have whatever you need waiting for you. And I suggest you call and make an appointment to have your furnace all serviced and ready to go for the cold weather. Gonna be a cold winter. That's my prediction. And they've got all the best in air filters for your furnace to run efficiently. Yes, sirree, Bob. You get a hold of them today, 678-0459, or stop in Ramsey Heating Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Hey, good things going on over at Valley White Home and Ranch, too, with the Golden Pumpkin giveaway. Keep your eyes open and your senses sharp for the Golden Pumpkin giveaway, and if somebody finds it before you do, don't worry. There's other pumpkins throughout the store. You might win a $25 gift card over at Valley White Home and Ranch. I'm not kidding. You better stop over there for your shopping today and look for the Golden Pumpkin giveaways at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. All the winter clothing in there, the boots, everything for you to stay warm and snuggy at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. How about a call? 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. This letter from this veterinarian, very well written, and I thank my wife for finding that and giving it to me. And it was sent to us. Helen evidently scrounged around and found the information, and I appreciate that. But it's really the truth. It's so hard to cross state lines, and if you're going out of the country with animals, etc., it's just absolutely a myriad of, do you have this permit, have you had that blood test, etc., for our animals, but yet we can cause this kind of a problem with Ebola coming into the United States of America. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
You know, Zeb, this just kind of makes me sick. We can take and go get an eagle's egg and just touch it, and they'll put us in jail and fine us very heavily. We can take one of them eagle feathers and keep it, and if they catch us, there's severe penalties for that. Mm-hmm. But we can mutilate, murder, destroy 2,800 babies a day in this country. This country thinks far higher of animals and, you know, our birds and stuff like that than they do people.
I agree.
It's a disgrace that our country thinks this way.
Well, it's not our country. Wait a minute, Jerry. Just a minute. Don't keep going. It's not our country. It's a current mindset in this administration, and it just goes like it's seeping through the ground from the top down, from the Obama administration and all the people that work there. I've never seen such a cold, calculating, not caring atmosphere as what they permeate in this administration.
Well, and you know, it goes to the guns, too. 2,800 people are killed a year, they say, with weapons, and that's inflated. It's not the truth. It's not, you know, it's not fact. But yet we can destroy 2,800 babies a day, and it don't matter.
I know. I am just so appalled as to the lack of respect for human life. And this is where I say, Jerry, by respecting human life, you have to honor and respect it by making sure that you don't allow the spread of a very deadly disease. This Ebola virus literally burns you up from the inside, destroying your organs and burning up all your organs and just literally tearing you apart and tearing you asunder. It's a deadly, horrendous disease. Why can't we be more careful and stop this at its source so that it doesn't go anywhere else?
You know, Zeb, I don't have the answer to that. But like I told you before, I don't think this president and this Senate and this House and this Supreme Court that we've got today does anything that's logical, sensible, or expedient.
I can't argue that point.
Everything they do is for graft or for them to make money or to get reelected. I'm going to have a real hard time voting next week.
No, you're not. You're going to go to
a lot of people on the ticket. But I won't vote for no matter what.
Well, just a minute, Jerry. I'm out of time in this segment, but I just want to say this. But go vote. Do not ever call me and say that you didn't vote, because that would cause a complete lack of respect.
I'm going to have a hard time voting for some of the people that's on the ballot.
Well, that is your choice.
I say that because I think we ought to be running people that are working for our country and doing for our country. And I think we've got some that are not.
All right, Jerry, I agree
and
with you.
I'll get out of your way so I don't get you any more upset.
No, you're not getting me upset.
Somebody else's day out there with my bad attitude.
Okay. Jerry, thank you. God bless you, man.
May the Lord bless you and bless your whole audience. And we'll see you at the lunch bunch. And I want to know what you're coming dressed as.
Hopefully I'll just come dressed. That's the best thing that could happen. Hey, I'll see you there Thursday.
Okay.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Hey, don't forget Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. Yes, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Yes, our Halloween party is this Thursday starting at 11:30. Yes, you've got so many great menu items to choose from on the menu, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Yes, the service is fantastic. Yes, they really care about you and your happiness there at Denny's. Oh my goodness, have a Halloween fun time at Denny's Restaurant. Oh, the pumpkin pancakes and all the goodies. Oh, it's delicious. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and they've got a new location now on Pole Line in Twin Falls. Boy, it's good food. Hey, don't forget to our friends at Snyder's Surplus. Not just army and hunting supplies. No. They've got something for everybody. They've got office chairs, and they've got furniture like filing cabinets. Oh, do I need some more filing cabinets? Deanne says, where are you going to put them? Hang them from the ceiling? Tea tables. They've got couches. They've got everything. They've got wool blankets. They got bunk beds. Oh, please stop in and see all their new items, new merchandise at their new store. 112 South, 200 West of Rupert. Snyder Surplus. They're waiting to serve you. Gina, I think what we'll do is have the Capital Press Ag Minute, and then we'll come out of it with good words for Lieutenant Governor Brad Little and HJR2, if you would please. Thank you.
The Capital Press Ag Minute is brought to you by OnlyAgs.com.
Prospects are dimming for a settlement on remaining claims and lawsuits over the May 2013 discovery of genetically engineered Monsanto wheat in an Oregon field. A joint status report submitted last week in the U.S. District Court in Kansas said no agreement has been reached in the lawsuits filed by non-soft white wheat plaintiffs against St. Louis-based Monsanto Company. The lawsuits from across the country have been consolidated in Kansas. Growers of soft white wheat who sued apparently have reached a tentative deal with the company. The report said the remaining parties will continue to discuss an amicable resolution, but do not believe any agreement will be reached soon. With the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Hannah Browse.
To receive instant, exclusive, unlimited access to the West Agricultural News Source, register your account today at CapitalPress.com.
Hi, I'm Brad Little, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. Idahoans are some of the most innovative and hardest-working people in the world. Let's help all Idahoans be job choosers, not job takers, for a better future.
Idaho is one of the best states to do business. With a strong system of education, we can attract more jobs in both traditional industries and new fields, like health, energy, manufacturing, and technology.
I'm Brad Little. Let's work together to build strong families, strong career choices, and a strong Idaho.
Hey, Little for Idaho, Tom Johnston, Treasurer.
Vote yes November 4th for HJR2, a constitutional amendment to keep the power of Idaho governance with the people. Vote yes on HJR2 to limit executive power over you and your business. Vote yes on HJR2 to keep your legislators working for your needs, not special interest groups. Vote yes on HJR2 to preserve the voice of we the people for the state of Idaho. Vote yes on HJR2. Paid for by Representative Fred Wood, House Speaker Scott Bedke, and Senator Dean Cameron. Vote yes on HJR2.
Don't forget, to re-elect Clark Kaufman as your District 25 representative to the legislature. Kaufman has served on the Revenue and Taxation Committee, Transportation and Defense Committee, and the Business Committee. He's honest, hardworking, and capable. Remember to vote on Tuesday, November 4th, and exercise your constitutional rights. Vote Kaufman. Paid for by committee to elect Clark Kaufman for Idaho's State Representative, District 25, Seat B. Debbie Kaufman, Treasurer. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Completely different story, but I want to just touch on this just a little bit. Across the United States, and I didn't know this, But across the United States, there are approximately, and don't hold me to this, it's a couple of people I had talked to on the telephone back east in New York and also Washington, D.C. had told me that there are approximately 62 high schools across the United States that bear the moniker of Redskins as their team logo and name and mascot. So, 62 high schools, and there's one in particular that I'm going to highlight that I saw on television, and it's a school from down in Arizona, and they call themselves the Redskins. It's from the Navajo tribe, and they have said very defiantly and very poignantly, no, do not change the name. We are very proud of Redskin name, and it's a source of pride for us in the school. And also, they are very much behind keeping the Washington Redskins football name. And the Harry Reids of the world, you know, the Senate Majority Leader, and all these crybaby Democrats, which they are. I mean, they just find a cause, and they wail, and they cry, and they get their handkerchiefs out of their pockets, and they say, oh, this isn't right. We've got to save the world. We've got better things to do, so we're going to spend all of our time trying to change the Washington Redskins football team name? Are you kidding me? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Tell them, leave it alone. Do their job like they're supposed to.
All right.
That stumped you, didn't it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you know, I want to wish Helen a very happy birthday. And may she have many more and put up with rotten.
It's got to be a tough life.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, by the way, I just want to say something, and I don't know if you had a chance to see it or not, but I watched, not all inclusive, but I watched most of it, the Monday Night Football game last night. And it was the Washington Redskins against the Dallas Cowboys. And there was quite a storyline there, Al. Here's a kid by the name of Colt McCoy. He was a former standout at the University of Texas about 4 years ago. And he went into the pros, and he got his bell rung really hard in one game and knocked cold. And they didn't think that he'd ever have the moxie and the guts to stand in the pocket and throw passes again because it hurt him. Well, here he is, a third-string quarterback for the Washington Redskins. He starts the game, he's nervous as can be, and he led them last night to victory in overtime over the Dallas Cowboys, 20-17. And, you know, I don't think he got the accolades. I don't think he got the praise. I don't think he got any of the, hey, attaboys that he deserved. That took a lot of guts after having your bell rung and almost put out of football for good 3 years ago to come back. First time back, and he goes as a starter, and he goes against a team that's up for the championship.
I know, and what ticked me off is they kept bragging about Romo.
Yeah.
Look how long he laid on the field. He went in and all that time wasted. Then he come out there and he said, sit on the bench. They tried to hide his helmet and everything else. Mr. Big Shot says, oh, I can lead this team to victory. You know what? That was the biggest, dumbest plays I've seen him do in a long time. He should have stayed on the bench because Witten was doing a good job.
I'm going to tell you something that I just thought this kid, Colt McCoy, he probably will never start another game because RG3, Robert Griffin, will come back. But you know something? That was his 15 minutes of fame last night. Yes. God bless him for coming back. Al, thank you for your comments.
With him there in the last because he done a heck of a good job just like he did when he was in Texas.
I agree with you.
Romo, they've got to rethink him. He's not the biggest all-star there is. And Jerry Jones, you should have stuck with your guns and says, hey, sit on the bench and shut up. We'll let Whedon do it.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens, Al. Thank you so much.
And I can be over at Lunch Bunch Thursday?
Yeah, definitely. You are one person in particular that doesn't even have to wear a mask.
That's right. I got it over there, but don't I?
God bless you, man. Thanks.
Same to you.
All right. Hey, caller, I'll be right there. Please bear with me. Got a lot of commercials. I promise, just sit there, twiddle your thumbs for a second. I'll be right there. Don't forget Berry Equipment and Rental. They've got all your equipment for your fall projects. Yes, they do at Berry Equipment and Rental. Need a Coyote tractor? Got them. Need a Doosan loader? Got them. Need a Bobcat loader? Got them. Got everything. All the man lifts. Everything for you to get the job done at 3 locations. Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln in Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. The best equipment, whether you're buying or buying or leasing. There you go, don't sell it. Berry Equipment and Rental. 3 locations serving you. Absolutely. Also, real quick, stand by. I want to remind everybody about Sophie's Chatterbox. Oh, yeah, 530 East Street on the square in Rupert. Oh, they got a bakery right there. Wedding cakes, cookie bars, homemade bread, delicious cinnamon rolls. Just absolutely, you'll break out into a smile. You're going to break out into a smile when you see those great, your grinners are just going to light right up when you see those delicious cinnamon rolls. Oh, are they good. At Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the square. Call 436-0354. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
You know, for every conservative that stays home and does not vote, that's another vote for the Democratic Party. Maybe people don't realize that.
I agree.
We're dealing with a mentally unbalanced individual, and that is Barack Obama. Everybody needs to go out, and we've got to tip the scale to balance. And that's all there is to it. Get out and vote.
Let me ask you something, Tony, and I don't care what kind of criticism I get over this statement. It's the way I feel. I feel that anybody that votes for a Democrat is voting for the support of Obama and his ideology and his policies. Now, they might say, oh, no, we're not. Yes, I don't want any more leadership like what we've got. I certainly do not want to see it here in the state of Idaho with Belukoff as governor. No, I don't. And I'll still call him what I called him 4 weeks ago before the Times News picked up on my phraseology. I said he was a one-trick pony, and I'm going to stand behind that.
Well, you're absolutely right. Barack Obama reminds me of Idi Amin. I don't know if people are offended by this, and the only thing that kept that man in power was the fact that he was ruling by means of brutality.
Well, I think
if something didn't agree with him, or somebody didn't agree with him, he would annihilate him.
Well, I don't know if you could...
Basically, this is what Barack Obama's mentality tells him what to do. Eventually rule by brutality.
I would say it's not so much a rule by brutality, it's a rule by insanity. The lack of concentrated effort for us, America, is absolutely apparent when you're talking about the Ebola crisis. This man is totally, his staff, totally unprepared. Totally unprepared. There's books out that call him an amateur. He's even below that. It's absolutely insane what we're doing.
Well, I don't think he cares about what Ebola does to this country. That would be another means of taking this country down. I don't know how you feel about that statement, but that's how I see it.
I agree. Tony, I appreciate your call as always. God bless you and Mary. Take care, would you please?
Okay, thank you.
All right, sir. Thank
Bye.
you. Caller number 2. Now, you realize how we've got to take care of some bill paying. We're going to take care of that and be right with you. Do not go away. Gina, may I please have the Jim Risch ad along with Ron Crane, and we'll be right back.
Mitt Romney on Jim Risch. Jim Risch is a person who you can count on to help build jobs, to say no to the growth of government, to say no to the growth of taxes, to say yes to family values, and to stand up for the people of our nation and the state of Idaho. This is a man of integrity, honesty, and character. Jim Risch is the person we can trust to fight for us in Washington. Jim Risch for the U.S. Senate.
I'm Jim Risch, and I approve this message.
Paid Risch for U.S. Senate.
And Also, could we please, if you would, Gina, the Ron Crane ad, if you would.
On Election Day, Idaho voters should choose a state treasurer with a 16-year record of success in helping improve the lives of Idahoans. Treasurer Ron Crane has nurtured and grown the tax-deductible Ideal College Savings Program, which thousands of Idaho families now use to continue their children's education. And nearly 25,000 Idaho women have gained saving and investing skills through Ron Crane's popular Smart Women, Smart Money training program. Vote Ron Crane for treasurer. Experienced investing, protecting Idaho's taxpayers.
Pete Crane for Idaho State Treasurer.
Thank you very much. And now, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say, kind of a shame I won't be able to be with you at the lunch bunch, but I'll be there in spirit.
Well, we'll certainly miss you and appreciate your call. You've always been very supportive of the lunch bunch.
On this deal with voting, I just want to say everyone needs to get out and vote, and if I have to, I'll take time off from the harvest to vote.
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Rod. We appreciate your call. Thank you, sir. God bless you, man.
Remember, everyone, remember, go vote. It's important.
There you go. November 4th, go vote. Thank you. Appreciate it. Caller, go ahead, please. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. But go and vote and be informed on the issues and the candidates.
Amen.
Vote over because it has an R or a D behind it.
Amen.
You know?
Amen.
That is real important. Your letter from the Lewiston vet there, I'll tell you, it really sums it up. But, you know, even in our agriculture here locally, the efforts that are made to keep us disease-free from various diseases that are around the world that plague so many places that make it difficult to grow food. We've got things in place here that if we just, you know, let down our guard, people don't realize how fragile the system is. And with the international trade we have now, especially with the open borders on trade and so forth, the possibility of bringing in fact, it's already been happening, some exotic diseases, insects, and so forth, because of these open trade things. So, but the vet is right on. I mean, good grief, how ridiculous is it that we can quarantine animals coming in here, but people, no, we'll just turn them loose on the subways or go to bowling alley, you know.
You know, let me just say something here, Adrian. Let me just jump in quick. There's been a lot of contempt and a lot of hatred over the last couple of days because a couple of nurses had to be quarantined and they thought it was an infringement against their rights. Stop the bus for a minute. I honestly do not care if they feel if their rights were infringed upon or not. They went into a hot zone over in Africa. They came back, and I think that by coming back from that area, there should be a demanding of quarantine until they are absolutely cleared of any possibility of carrying the virus. I don't care about their rights. I don't care about their uncomfort. I think that we need to protect the United States of America.
Well, that's the whole problem. And, you know, our elected officials are abrogating their responsibilities. I'm talking about our senators and congressmen right here. They're not doing their job to stand up and say, stop, you know, this is enough. Their job, an oath of office, is to protect this country against enemies, foreign and domestic.
That's right.
Well, this is a foreign enemy in the form of a disease that's coming in here. Now it's turned loose. And the horse is out of the barn now, and it's going to be very difficult to get it back.
I agree with you, Adrian. Well stated, and thank you for your call, as always. You're right up on top of things. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, sir. Caller, I've got, let's see, I'll do the weather after Oh, my. Did they get tired of waiting? Call back, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, are you right there by the microphone?
I was not, but now I am.
Oh, okay. Did the caller all of a sudden decide to leave?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I hope they call back. Now, let us remember, let's close our eyes for a minute and remember days of yesterday. Okay?
Okay.
And think about when we called for the weather at 8:45, all the atrocities and all the misgivings and all the computer malfunctions that happened. So now, are you ready for that button push again this morning?
Well, let's give it a go and see if it works. It should today, though.
All right, hang on. I'm wild with anticipation. I'm just shaking.
You are.
Okay, stand by. Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. My goodness, they've got all the tools to help promote your business, like jackets with Carhartt. Now, all your company logo emblazoned on them, and plaques for all the award winners, and business cards. Oh, my goodness, they do a wonderful job on business cards. And they've got the buck knives that you can have custom engraved. Oh, my goodness, stop over and see Nicole at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Wonderful, wonderful business serving you. Now it's the time for the big moment, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from Exhibit the Ranch. Another good day today. We're looking for temperatures a little bit warmer today than was yesterday, although we're going to be in the low 60s. That's better than the low 50s. Otherwise, sun and cloud today, partly cloudy tomorrow, and also for the day after tomorrow. But otherwise, it's a nice, cool fall day in the Magic Valley. Enjoy the weather. Show what do you got?
Gina, it worked. Thank you very much. Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Wonderful, wonderful people. I love what they do. You will too. Stop over and see them today. Mad River Laser in Rupert. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Did you hear about a poll worker, a caller, I'll be right there, stand by, I got to quickly get this in, about a poll worker down in Florida for the early voting? And the poll worker goes up to this gentleman that walked into the polls, okay? Very nice gentleman. And she demanded that he take off his cap. Now, nobody else had been asked to take off their cap. But this guy's cap said two things that she was really upset about. It said NRA instructor. That's what it said on the cap. He is an NRA instructor. Yes, he's a teacher in the safe use of firearms. And he was wearing his cap for his business. He's an NRA inspector. And this poll worker got all bent out of shape, and she said, "You can't wear that in here. That's a political statement. Take it off or you won't be allowed to vote." What? Now, being that he was such a nice man, he took off the cap and voted and walked out. Now, I wouldn't have. Boy, we are losing our First Amendment rights. Boy, we are losing the right of our promotion of our jobs, etc., if somebody's offended by it. And she should have been told, "Lady, go sit down in that chair over there you just vacated. Please be quiet and do your job." And it's not controlling what I wear. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. That nurse is complaining that she had her rights violated because they quarantined her for a short time. Other people in this nation have rights too, and they have a right to not let diseases come in and get them or their children. And she's saying, "Well, I'm going to sue. I'm going to make big bucks off of this." And she's being a real jerk. That's not the word I want to use, but I think that the rest of the folks also have rights. They have rights to safety, and if she is taking away that right, then her right is gone.
All right, let's go back to the letter from the veterinarian that I read earlier, and I'm just going to read one part of the paragraph. It says here, the horses need to undergo a 60-day quarantine period at a USDA-approved quarantine facility prior to mingling with the general population of horses in this country. Carl, why would horses be that much more stringent than human beings? And I say to this nurse, "Lady, Lady, you were in the hot zone. You were at the Ebola Crisis Center for the world. You're coming back here. Yes, you will be in a quarantine. We don't care about your yelling and screaming because we've got to protect the populace of the United States of America. End of story.
That is exactly right, Zeb. That's what I was trying to say, but you did it much better.
No. I mean, I'm so upset about this, Carl. We entertain thoughts of more safety about animals and our food products coming in than we do human beings that are carrying a deadly disease. Tell me that's so nonsensical I can't stand it.
Oh, I agree with that. Nonsensical is a really good word. And that nurse ought to, look it up and read it and understand it.
Amen, Carl. God bless you, man. Good to hear from you. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Well, I want to bring up something the ironic side with her. She went over there to do humanitarian work and be exposed and stuff, but when she comes back here, she don't care about her humanitarian duty over here to us.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Absolutely.
I think that's really just ironic right there.
Yeah, and also going back again to this letter from this veterinarian, and the facts are the facts. I mean, you can't cross state lines unless you have certain infectious diseases that have been inoculated on your horses so that you can cross state lines. You can't go from country to country without the proper papers and health certificates and everything. Why in the world are we treating this situation less? And as far as this nurse is concerned, I would just say, lady, you were in the hot zone. We have a certain quarantine procedure. You are going to abide by it or you will be jailed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. I'm so sick and tired of the bleeding heart liberal attitude. Oh, they've trampled on my rights. Wait a minute. The Obama administration has trampled on our rights by being absolutely inept in providing safety for you, me, our grandchildren, everybody else in this country because of a completely chaotic situation, a mess, if you will, that they have not taken care of. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Deb.
Yes, sir.
This nurse, it is very, very evident that she was a Democrat or a communist or some damn thing because of the way she was trying to throw the governor under the bus.
Yeah.
And someone paid for a chartered plane to fly her to Maine. Well, I guess that's where her home is.
Yeah.
But, this is just a political play back in, just like they always do.
Well, Keith, again, I'm doing something that I like to do is keep referring back to information previously given. But if a horse is going to undergo a 60-day quarantine period before it can come into this country or go elsewhere, why can't we have the same for a 21-day period of incubation for a virus that is deadly to human beings?
Well, because they have a president that's got his head up, a ways somewhere. We don't even know where.
You scared me. You really scared me there for a minute.
Breathing the fumes of the Democratic Party, and what more can you say?
Well, I tell you what, there was a certain part of your verbiage there that when you started into that area, I started to cringe, and my armpits developed a very warm, moist feeling like I was sweating profusely.
Yeah, I think Governor Christie did the right thing.
I do too.
So many people have attacked him. That guy is tough as nails.
I agree with you. Keith, good to hear from you. Thank you very much for your call. All right. I really don't care at all about that nurse and her feelings, and I feel like I'm in jail. Well, maybe that's where you belong, babe. Maybe that's where you should go, honey. Until you get the attitude of, ooh, wait a minute, I've been in the Ebola hot zone, and I don't want to transfer this to my fellow Americans. That's the attitude that this nurse should have, but she doesn't. Don't forget, great big tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, boy, I mean all the tires for your cars, pickup trucks, SUVs, horse trailers, whatever you need tires for. All the different tread designs, and I mean these are the cream of the crop. Cream of the crop and ready for your driving. You better believe it. And the Terramax HT, the Wildcat AT2, the Ultra Z900, oh my goodness sakes, good tires by people that know all about tireology. They've studied tireology. They know all about tireology. And that's your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The very best. And the best in brake service. Oh, my goodness. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. Oh, make sure that battery that you've got right now is going to do the job. It'll give you a battery test. And then, of course, they've got all kinds of batteries for you. With Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, by the way, there's going to be a great big Halloween party for your dogs and kitty cats. And that's over at Four Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West, 200 South of Paul. Number to call, 438-4444. It's going to be the day after Halloween on November 1st, Saturday, November 1st, from 11 to 3. Mark it on your calendars. Take your kitty cats and dogs over there. Refreshments for both people and pets, and all kinds of pictures and toys and treats, and just a fun time at the Halloween party for Four Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West, 200 South of Paul, and that number is 438-4444. Okay, gotcha. All right, we're going to take just a little bitty break. And when we come back, man, have we got some heavy hitters coming on this morning. We've got Professor Bill Jacobson coming on, talking about politics and some of the things the liberals are trying to throw at us. And then at 9:30, one of my very favorite guests, man, I'll tell you what, this guy, he knows what's going on because he's been there, done that, and seen it. And that's former CIA operative Brian Fairchild. And he's going to be talking about the lone wolf mentality of ISIS. Boy, it's going to be interesting. Then at 10:06, Dr. History, and then at 10:30, George Mass, dear friend, talking about a little flag flap that's going on. And we'll have all of that and more right here on Zeb at the Ranch.
Then that became an issue in the recall election where nationally Democrats tried to get him out of office, which he survived. Then, after he survived the recall, they started John Doe number 2, which is looking into whether conservative activists in Wisconsin illegally, and that's the key term, illegally coordinated with Walker's campaign regarding the recall election. And what they did is the same prosecutor started a second proceeding and obtained from a judge subpoenas to virtually every major conservative activist in Wisconsin. And the police, or the prosecutor's office, I should say, acting with police help, literally raided people's homes, seized computers, threatened to kick down doors that came with battering rams. Children were pulled out in the middle of the night. Cell phones were seized, computers were seized, emails, texts, everything. And the theory was that these groups had illegally coordinated. And then, but under this John Doe procedure, it's really, very strange and frightening. The people who'd been raided were not allowed to talk about it. There was an order, judge's order, that they could not tell anybody other than an attorney about it. So these people have been raided, and they're all afraid now to do anything politically because their emails are being surveilled, their text messages surveilled, their phone calls. So it essentially, for the better part of a year, shut down the entire conservative activist community in Wisconsin until finally a second judge was appointed to that state John Doe procedure and said, wait a second, your whole claim of illegality actually is not illegal. That what you're accusing them of doing, this coordination by running what we call issues ads, you see them all the time.
Yeah.
They don't support a candidate, but they kind of do because they talk about issues. and they attack the opponent. And that happens everywhere. And they said that the judge says, wait a second, I'm not issuing any more subpoenas in this case, and in fact, I'm basically shutting down this investigation because that is not illegal. That's actually protected First Amendment speech. And then it went a step further. Then two of the targets, one of whom had been I don't know if he'd been raided or not, but one of the targets of this investigation went to federal court and actually sued the prosecutors and said that what you are doing is violating my constitutional rights. And a federal trial court judge, district court judge, agreed and issued an injunction stopping the state proceeding. That was reversed not so much on the substance, but the Court of Appeals said, well, the federal court shouldn't have interfered in a state proceeding, and that state proceeding was shut down anyway. So basically what you have here is you have prosecutors using the secret procedure, of course, exclusively against conservatives.
Yeah.
During an election season, which we have now, it's become an issue in the election campaign. And at the end of the day, these people did nothing wrong, even if everything the prosecutors said they did, they did. So it's a crazy situation. It's a little bit confusing, but the short story is that the Democratic prosecutor used this procedure multiple times to try to find something on Scott Walker, and that has now become a political issue that his Democratic opponent is using against him. And it all smells really, really bad.
All right, now, Bill, in layman's terminology, I'll just ask some questions because, number one, this sounds like nothing more than a political witch hunt with the liberal left against the conservative right, i.e. Scott Walker as governor. Also, it sounds like you use the words illegally coordinated, and also it's a complete debacle as far as free speech is concerned. But my main concern is these people. Do they have any repercussion against somebody for ruining their lives to that point, to the point where they could sue and hopefully win?
Well, that's an open question because normally prosecutors have immunity for what they do as prosecutors. The question here is whether they exceeded that level of immunity and whether the immunity applies to what they do not as prosecutors but as investigators. And that's an issue that some court at some point is going to have to decide. But, you know, there's a bigger issue here, which is, as you say, the issue of the coordination.
Yeah.
And this may very well end up in the U.S. Supreme Court because, as I was mentioning, there was the federal lawsuit. Trial court judge issued the injunction saying, hold on a second, this is not illegal, this is just free speech. Court of Appeal said, well, Judge, you know, it's not that clear. The Supreme Court hasn't definitively ruled on it, and you shouldn't be telling a state court what to do. You're a federal judge. You shouldn't be telling the state what to do. The people are now going to seek to get the Supreme Court to review the case because there's important national implications as to what type of campaign activity, political activity, cannot be regulated by the states. Much like, you know, we had Citizens United and we've had a couple of other big campaign law issues. And so there's a possibility that the U.S. Supreme Court might take the case. And if it does, then you'd have another one of these blockbuster decisions. But, you know, getting back to the prosecutor's motivations, of course, he says his motives are completely pure, that he suspects wrongdoing and that he just wants to investigate it fully. But an interesting thing happened. Somebody who used to work in his office and who actually was friendly with his family became a whistleblower. And said that the motivation behind this was that the prosecutor, not only is a Democrat, but more important, the prosecutor's wife is a school union official. And that she was furious with the collective bargaining reforms that Scott Walker instituted, which essentially did away with public sector unions. I mean, not completely, but to a significant degree, particularly in the teachers field, that they have to get recertification every year. They can't force people to join, and those teachers unions are hurting very badly because of those reforms. So this whistleblower alleged that he actually, you know, was present during conversations when that political motivation came out, and that it was driven by the prosecutor's wife, who is a school union official. And so that, you know, of course the prosecutor says that's not true, you're just smearing me, et cetera, et cetera. But that's kind of what everybody everybody has suspected that this John Doe number 1 was just because they didn't like Scott Walker, but John Doe number 2 was specifically related to those collective bargaining reforms and the fact that they tried to get him out of office because of that and couldn't. And so that could very well be the motivation. And what has happened is that this lawsuit that the people instituted against that prosecutor for now is on hold, but it may be reignited. It may be refiled, perhaps in state court rather than federal court. Who knows? But at some point, somebody will get to the bottom of it. The whole thing just smells really bad, and that you just have to wonder why for 4 years now, 4 years now, they've been going after and investigating Scott Walker with this intensity. And everybody knows it's political, but whether you can prove it or not is a different story.
Let me ask you this, Bill, and I hope you're not offended by me calling you by your first name.
No.
But let me ask you this. I'm originally from Wisconsin, and it was for a long, long time a blue state. And then all of a sudden on the horizon, here came Scott Walker dressed up as the Lone Ranger and rode into town and said, I can do better, I can do this, I can make things better for everybody in the state of Wisconsin. And he proved that he could. Is the animus against him so bad by the liberal left that they will resort to anything, and I underline that word anything, to put him under and basically get him out of politics?
The short answer is yes. Okay, I can't be more clear than that. They will do anything. One of my favorite images from the protests back when they passed the collective bargaining law, and the protesters took over the State House. They occupied the rotunda for several days. They were harassing people. They were screaming at people. They were chasing legislators. They were banging on their bus. One woman locked her head to the metal railing with one of those U-shaped bicycle locks.
Oh, my.
And so when you say, will they do anything? Well, yes, they will do anything. The police, of course, came in with the proper equipment and unlocked it or cut it or whatever they did, although some people said, well, if that's what she wants, you should have just left her there. Go home, turn out the lights, lock the doors, leave her head. But yes, they were so crazed and so crazy that one person actually went to the extent of locking her head to a metal railing in the state capitol. And it really went to the heart of political power in Wisconsin, because so much of it was funded by the unions, and so much of it had to do with public sector unions having great power over people's lives. And once that was, nothing that Scott Walker did interfered at all with private sector unions. And in fact, he carved out police fire type of union also. So the biggest effect, frankly, was on the teachers' unions. And the teachers' unions in many blue states are enormously powerful. They really control a lot of the politicians. I recently moved full-time to upstate New York, but I used to live in Rhode Island. And Rhode Island is completely run by the unions, and the teachers' unions are extremely powerful because they can get out the vote. They donate a lot of money. They raise a lot of money, and the politicians are really beholden to them. So Scott Walker really struck at the heart of the Democratic power structure in Wisconsin, which were the state teachers' unions. And for that, they will never forgive him, and they will never stop trying to get him out of office.
Bill, let me ask you one final thought here, and I've only got 3 minutes left, and then I've got a large commercial break before the bottom of the hour. But are we seeing, in this regard, the tip of the iceberg for absolutely slovenly, dirty, underhanded politics if this election at the midterms throws out a lot of the Democrats in the Senate and brings in new people on the Republican side of the aisle? Are we looking at more of this dirty politics?
Well, I think we are. I mean, obviously, a lot of it will be focused on the presidential election in 2016. And in all likelihood, Hillary Clinton will be there and be the nominee. I mean, we don't know for sure, but that's the presumptive scenario. And there's nobody who does dirty politics quite like the Clinton machine. I mean, Hillary will keep her own hands clean, but they've already put in structure the campaign apparatus and the attack apparatus They created something called American Bridge, devoted solely to investigating Republican candidates and following them around with video cameras. That's run by the same guy who runs Media Matters, which is a Democratic operative machine. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's going to be a really dirty election in 2016 if the Clintons are, if a Clinton is at the head of the ticket, which seems likely. It's going to be, back to the 90s, the politics of personal destruction, stop at nothing, really destroy your enemies on a personal level. So I think it's going to be that way, regardless of who wins the Senate this year. I think it's going to be that way if Clinton is at the top of the ticket.
Bill, I've got to have you back in the not-too-distant future and discuss this issue with Hillary and some of the faux pas that she's committed. You are excellent. Cornell Law Professor, publisher of LegalInsurrection.com, Professor Bill Jacobson. God bless you, man. You are excellent. I'll have you back. Thanks.
I hope so. Take care.
All right, sir. Thank you very, very much. Boy, I'm going to put him down to have in about 2 weeks. We're going to hopefully have him back, and we're going to talk about some of the absolute stupid statements that Hillary made, especially the one this last weekend in regards to businesses do not create jobs. What? Right now I'm going to talk about a dear friend of mine, and that's Fred Wood, running unopposed for Representative District 27. Fred, of course, chairman of the Health and Welfare Committee and Resources and Environment Committee. The man listens. That's what I like about him. He listens, and he works for the people of District 27. And he wants to thank everybody who has voted for him in the past and encourage people to get out and vote on November 4th. And please vote yes for the constitutional amendment, HJR2. Fred Wood, representative of District 27, paid for by Fred Wood, House Seat 27. Gina, if you would please, could I please have the good words for HJR2?
Vote yes November 4th for HJR2, a constitutional amendment to keep the power of Idaho governance with the people. Vote yes on HJR2 to limit executive power over you and your business. Vote yes on HJR2 to keep your legislators working for your needs, not special interest groups. Vote yes on HJR2 to preserve the voice of we the people for the state of Idaho. Vote yes on HJR2. Paid for by Representative Fred Wood, House Speaker Scott Bedke, and Senator Dean Cameron. Vote yes on HJR2.
Also want to remind you, Representative Clark Kaufman, a Filer area farmer and businessman, is running for re-election for state representative in District 25. Kaufman has leadership experience with multiple statewide organizations and received the Friend of Co-op Award from the Idaho Co-op Council in 2014. He thanks you for the privilege of serving as your representative the past 2 years and asks you for your vote in the November general election, and he encourages you to register and vote. Paid for by committee to elect Clark Kaufman for Idaho State Representative for District 25 Seat B, Debbie Kaufman, Treasurer. Once again, a reminder, this Thursday at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, we're going to have our Halloween party starting at 11:30, and we're going to have all kinds of extra prizes, door prizes, and also a prize for the best Halloween mask and best Halloween costume. We'd like to say thank you to Walmart and Hanson Mortuary, Smith's Food King, Denny's Restaurant, for providing our door prizes. It's going to be a lot of fun. Come celebrate Halloween at a great place to eat. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and we're looking forward to it. Let me see, what else have I got to do here? Oh, by the way, did you hear that? I want to have you take down a number right now. Listen to me. I want you to write down the number 312-0957. 312-0957. That's the number from Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. If you are having trouble hearing, if you are noticing hearing loss, please call that number and make an appointment for a hearing screening at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, at 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. That number, again, your hearing is very, very important. 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology. Call her today, okay? Really a nice lady. Oh, and by the way, too, let's not forget our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, locally owned by Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens, serving you. Dean and Todd, very dedicated and responsive to your needs, and very accessible and devoted to helping you with your program, your insurance program. Life insurance, they have the answers, as they do with all the insurance coverage. 436-4424. They're located on Highway 24 in Rupert. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. You get a hold of them today. Gina, if we could, the word for our friend Jim Risch.
Mitt Romney on Jim Risch. Jim Risch is a person who you can count on to help build jobs, to say no to the growth of government, to say no to the growth of taxes, to say yes to family values, and to stand up for the people of our nation and the state of Idaho. This is a man of integrity, honesty, and character.
Jim Risch is the person we can trust to fight for us in Washington. Jim Risch for the U.S. Senate.
I'm Jim Risch, and I approve this message.
Paid Risch for U.S. Senate.
No, thank you very much. And by the way, also, I'm very, very proud to have on my program Senator Lee Hyder. He's been very, very busy helping to pass many, many bills up at the Idaho Capitol. Lee Hyder voted, of course, yes, on the limits payday loan, and he's been also very instrumental authorizing the concealed carry of firearms, and just absolutely has done a good job for his constituents in District 24. Vote on November 4th for Lee Hyder, Senator for District 24, paid for by Lee Hyder for Senate, District 24. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and we have a very good friend of mine on the air, and I guess the best way to introduce him is he's a straight-up stand-up guy, and he has all the knowledge of what's going on with terrorism around the world. Former CIA operative and a dear friend. I can't wait to meet him in person and buy him dinner, and that, of course, is our dear friend Brian Fairchild. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Morning, Zeb. I'm doing fine, and I'm looking forward to that dinner.
Well, anytime we can get together, it's going to be my treat and my pleasure. Brian, with your expertise, and I put you at the top of the pile for knowing what's going on in the world today and how critical these various problems are. When you hear about lone gunmen walking down the street in Ottawa, Canada, shooting someone at a national military site and walking into Parliament. And then, of course, we have someone in the subway system in New York with an axe. What are these other than acts of terrorism?
Oh, no, they're absolutely acts of terrorism, Zeb. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And let me just step back for a second and talk about this concept of lone wolf. If you had the administration define what they mean by lone wolf, they would say, well, a lone wolf is just, a disaffected kid who's sitting up in his room, pouring his attention on his laptop and looking at jihadi sites, and then he gets all these crazy ideas and he runs out and does these bad things. And that plays into the administration's narrative that, lone wolves really have nothing to do with Islam. They're all just, a bunch of, slightly weird, disaffected Muslim youth who look at their websites in the dark rooms and then run out and do these things. And that's just absolutely not true, Zeb. I mean, they're lone wolves in the sense that they are working alone. It's not necessarily a plot, by Al-Qaeda, where you've got a coordination level plot, that sort of thing. But these guys, I don't know of any case where a guy is not associated, a lone wolf attacker is not associated with a mosque or other people of like mind, in addition to the Internet. The Internet is like, if you and I were interested in fly fishing, and we belonged to a fly fishing club, and we got together with our fly fishing, friends and talked fly fishing all the time, and then went down and had a couple of beers and talked about fly fishing, and then we went home and looked up fly fishing on the internet because that's our interest. That's sort of how this lone wolf thing is. These guys, they go to radical mosques, they have radical friends, sometimes they have radical family members, and they associate with radicals, and then they go and they look online and they get the icing on the cake by looking up jihadi stuff, and that's what a lone wolf really is. So I don't want your listeners to think that lone wolves are what the administration wants them to think a lone wolf is. A lone wolf is not just some crazy kid sitting in the dark looking at jihadi websites.
Brian, let me ask you this, and the administration tries to downplay anything and everything with mosques' involvement and also Islam and the word terrorism. But when you look at the lone wolf situation, are many of these people, are they possibly nurtured by ISIS via the computer or with personal meetings in some secluded area, trying to stir up problems in certain areas? How do they go about coordinating this?
Well, the latest attacks, the attacks on Parliament up in Canada, and on the attack in Canada where the guy ran down a couple of soldiers in the car, the axe attack, that beheading attacks here in Oklahoma, those sorts of attacks are inspired by ISIS, and they've been inspired by Al-Qaeda for 10 years. I'll discuss that in just a second. But they are inspired by ISIS, but they're not the sole input to the people's motivations. I mean, like I say, well, first of all, every one of these people are Muslim. Right? I mean, so you got to start with that as the common denominator.
Okay.
Then they're not just Muslim, but they're a specific kind of Muslim. They believe in Salafi beliefs. And we could go into a long discussion about Salafism, but I don't think we have time here to do it. But Salafism, just in a thumbnail sketch, Salafis believe in taking a literal translation of all the words in the Quran. They just take it at face value, literal translation. If Allah says go kill, I'm going to go kill. And so that's what a Salafi is. So they're Muslims with Salafi beliefs. They tend to congregate with other Salafis, and they look at ISIS and the new caliphate and the new caliph as their leader. So when the leader comes out and says, go kill Western intelligence officers, military people, police officers, they stand up and salute and say, I've got my orders, I will go and do what the commander has told me. Mm-hmm. And so that's the association. In addition to that, there will be coordinated, planned ISIS attacks using ISIS operatives that either are here or come into the United States or Canada and commit attacks. But it's not an either-or situation, Zev. You have a whole range of people that are doing the bidding of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Some of them are directly associated and some of them aren't.
Brian, a very naive question, but I think a lot of people are probably asking it to themselves out in the audience right now. What can we, as American citizens or people anywhere in the confinement of this globe, what can we do to protect ourselves from these lone wolf attacks? No one knows where they come from. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows what methods. I mean, how do we protect ourselves?
Yeah, well, see, therein lies the problem, and the problem, the problem is multifaceted. I mean, what you're asking is, what can we as individuals do?
Right.
And really, about the only answer I can give to you and your listeners is that you have to have heightened awareness. If you have watched the news coverage of the Canada attack, for instance, and the guy is in black clothes with an Arabic scarf around his neck, and he's running with a weapon. I mean, you just have to have more security awareness. You instead of just walking across the park or walking across the parking lot, look and see who's in that parking lot. See if anybody's acting strangely. See if there's anybody wearing black with a scarf running with a gun. I mean, that's really all we can do. You just have to have heightened awareness and be looking around. But it goes far deeper than that, Zeb, because what we have to do is we have to have a strategic intelligence program that isn't waiting for the attacks, isn't sitting back and going, hey, maybe there'll be attacks, maybe there won't. I'll put out an alert and say, hey, everybody, there might be attacks, so be looking out. What you have to do is have, a years-long, robust strategic intelligence program to penetrate these organizations, to have, people in ISIS that can give you, heads up. And when you think about it, Zeb, you hear all these reports about the fact that Dianne Feinstein, who is Senator Feinstein, is the head of the Senate Intelligence Select Committee in Congress. She just came out, I think yesterday, saying there were 30 to 50,000 people in ISIS. And of those 30 to 50,000 people, about 15 to 20,000 of them are foreign fighters coming from Canada and Europe and the United States and from all over the world, including the Middle East. And so, if there are 20,000 foreign fighters working for ISIS, wouldn't it be possible to slip a couple of guys in there who were CIA, who were MI5, MI6, those sorts of guys? And yes, there's going to be tremendous risk, and yes, they might have to do things that we'll have to, say, okay, well, they had to go along with this attack, otherwise they'd blow their cover. There are some things that you've got to do in intelligence where you just bite the bullet.
Right.
But if you get these people inside and they have a reporting capability, then they can maybe alert us to these kind of attacks. And I don't think that sort of thing has been done.
Brian, let me ask you this. Is our society, because of all of our freedoms and all the lifestyle that we have afforded us thanks to our Constitution, are we a naive society to where this problem with ISIS and the lone wolves is going to be exacerbated and a lot more dangerous here in this country?
Well, I think it certainly complicates the situation. I mean, we're always complaining about, the administration, and we're complaining about how the administration regards the Constitution as a historical document and so forth and so on. But that historical document, which is the blueprint for the U.S. government and protects all civil rights of Americans, is vital to us, right? But it's also something that inhibits us when it comes to stopping terrorism before it starts, going after these radicals, because we've got that, pesky First Amendment, the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion.
Right.
And so there's got to be a way of figuring out, well, how do you not, take away somebody's First Amendment rights while protecting the rest of the United States? And one of the ways to do that is to look at these different groups as militant movements. See, we're not going after Islam. We're going after, ISIS. We're going after Al-Qaeda. We're going after an ideology, a militant ideology that, that requires the breakdown. I mean, the defeat and and attacks on the West and our American system. So if you work your way through Congress with legislation focusing on that rather than just trying to go and take away somebody's religious rights, you can zero in on the problem. But it is a problem. And, you can't say, well, you can say you can have freedom of religion, but you can't. And you can have freedom to say anything you want, but you can't. So you've got to focus on the bad guys and try to figure out how to establish, legislation to get at them.
Okay, now, I'm going to ask your indulgence for 60 seconds. I've got to do a commercial break, and I'll be right back with more with Brian Fairchild momentarily. Stand by, please. Don't forget Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. Great big fall savings. No money down, no interest, 15 months on approved credit, and they've got doorbusters, low prices on a lot of great items, including their mattresses. You can get a king for the price of a queen. You can get a queen 13 for the price of a full. And check out the dinette sets. Many, many different styles and prices, and especially right now this close to Thanksgiving, all the furniture you need to welcome home all the relatives for Thanksgiving. From Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see these great folks today. And don't forget rolls and rolls and rolls of carpet to beautify your home at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. Real quick, also reminding you about Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. They've got all the snow machines, all the 2015 snowmobiles in stock, all the accessories. And there's still a lot of time to enjoy going up in the hills on the ATV. And again, all the ATVs and the accessories. And they've got a fantastic service department there too. So check it out. Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. They're waiting to serve you where the fun is sold at Let's Ride. We're on the phone with a dear friend of mine, Brian Fairchild, and we're talking about ISIS and the lone wolves. Now, Brian, a question that comes to mind here this morning is you're talking about how we, the American public, are sometimes naive because we have all of our constitutional rights, we have our freedoms, but we also, I think, now more than ever before, have a complete lack of leadership. I am not at all happy with the lack of leadership and this kind of a bow down and kiss the floor where everybody else walks with Obama. And after the last 6 years, I'm very concerned. What are your thoughts looking back at the Bush and other leaders as compared to Obama?
Well, you know, it's a situation that, well, first of all, I agree that, you know, especially in this administration, we have a terrible lack of leadership. We have a president who's not really interested in foreign affairs. He's not really interested in any kind of military operations overseas. He has turned intelligence into a drone program rather than collection and analysis of strategic intelligence. But he didn't start that. He's exacerbated, but he didn't start that. The fall of our strategic intelligence capability has, began with the fall of the Soviet Union back in 1991, and just about every president has allowed our strategic intelligence analysis and collection capability to degrade. Now, that's a problem because something I want to bring up to your listeners right now, because I think this is going to be a major problem that we're going to have to face in the coming years. And that's that I'm in the middle of writing an analysis right now about the possibility that ISIS will create a biological weapons capability.
Oh, boy.
And that is not a far-fetched concept. Al-Qaeda has been interested and has pursued a biological weapons capability, a strategic capability, since the mid to late 1990s. And this, biological weapons are the game changer. They're considered to be the poor man's nuclear weapon, and there are many facts that point to ISIS developing this capability, and I think that's one of the scariest things in the world because pathogens, biological pathogens. What a biological weapon is something like smallpox or anthrax or the plague or Ebola or tularemia or any of these terrible pathogens. And a bioweaponeer takes that pathogen and he makes it as virulent as he can possibly make it. Not only that, then he creates a situation where it cannot be vaccinated against. Not only that, but then he takes it and he figures out the best way to deliver as many of those, as much of the pathogen as he possibly can to as many people as he possibly can. So if you consider the problems that we've had with Ebola here just recently and the panic among the public with 3 cases of Ebola in the United States, think of, an Ebola that has been weaponized, made more virulent than the Ebola that we're aware of, and spread among the population. Let's say 10,000 people have become infected, or 100 people. But you see the point. All of a sudden, there's a breakdown of the system. Hospitals can't handle the people coming in. Many people are coming in who really aren't sick, but think that they might be. They overwhelm the system, and it goes on and on. So that's a strategic problem that needs to be focused on. And the way you have to focus on a strategic problem like that is through penetrations of governments. You have to do everything you possibly can, as well as militarily degrade ISIS and anything that they might use as a laboratory. So that's my thoughts on the subject anyways.
All right, Brian, I've got a caller with a question, and then I've got one final question, and then I've got to take a break. Caller, go ahead, please. Quickly.
Yes, Brian, I've heard evidence, now I don't know if this is fact, that there is a patent on the Ebola virus, and so it could be used as a weapon if necessary. And then also on ISIS and extreme Muslim terrorism, that it's always been backed and controlled somewhat by the Russians, and especially Putin at this point, and they've been behind it for years, since the 67 Israel war. Is there any proof of that? And I'll hang up.
All right, thank you, caller. Go ahead, Brian, please.
Well, actually, I'm so sorry, Zeb, but I couldn't hear the caller at all.
First of all, he was asking about, he had heard that there was a actual patent on the Ebola virus. And then I'll be honest with you, I had a call coming in here at my station and my office, and I didn't hear the second part, but I did hear the first. Maybe you could relate an answer to his question about the Ebola virus.
Well, I don't know. I don't really know what the caller was referring to as far as a patent.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the Soviet Union was one of the biggest biological. I imagine he's talking about the biological weapons program, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, and well, the Soviet Union, weaponized. I actually had some dealings with the former Soviets that were the head of the biological weapons program. There is a scientist by the name of Kanat Alibekov, known as Ken Alibek, in the West, and he was the head of BioPreparat, who was the head of the biological weapons program for the Soviet Union. I testified before Congress with him back in 1998, and Ken came and helped me do a couple of presentations that I was giving. And I can tell you that he says that the Soviets had weaponized Ebola. So they had taken Ebola and made it even more virulent and had weaponized it.
Okay.
Then in this new era of gene splicing and gene synthesis, they discovered that they could splice other terrible pathogens together with Ebola and other pathogens. So imagine having Ebola and anthrax at the same time.
Oh, my goodness.
Ebola and botulinum toxin or that sort of thing. So I don't know about the patent. It might be that he's getting to, did countries have pathogens that they used? And they certainly did, and the Soviets certainly weaponized it.
Brian, I've only got about 2 minutes left, and then I've got to break it off for this morning and have you back at a later time. But give me a condensed answer on this. When you said earlier, we need to be prepared, we need to be aware, I've been talking in my newsletter and also on this program about watching people, understanding people, looking at people, get your concealed weapons permit, all these things. I think preparation is necessary. What would you add to that very short list that I just made?
Well, first of all, I agree with that short list. I urge people not to get panicky. You don't want to be reaching for your concealed weapon if there's no reason. But you certainly want to, what you have to do is, in addition to the things that you've just mentioned, is you have to keep educated. And rather than just hearing things on the news about an attack, you want to focus on those things in the news on the attack. You don't want to just hear, oh, there was an attack on Parliament up in Canada. I better bring my concealed weapon with me today. Read the articles, find out what people saw, what the attacker did, what you might look for in an attacker in your local area, and what techniques did he use? Where what did he go to? He went to the Parliament. He also went to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, the equivalent of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Canada. Others go to shopping malls. Be aware of where these people go, and then when you go to those places, have the added awareness.
Absolutely. Brian, God bless you, and I mean that. And I certainly hope the day looms on the horizon where I can buy you the biggest prime rib or steak that you want, and I'll look forward to it. Brian Fairchild, former CIA operative, very dear friend. God bless you, man. I'll be in touch. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Zeb.
Take care.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. I'm just spellbound when I listen to him in regards to how dangerous the situation is currently. Gina, I am going to ask you a very, very big favor. Would you please play the good words for Secretary of State Lawrence Denny and another good word for Senator Jim Risch, and I'll be back with the weather right after that.
Idaho's right to vote is critical. We need a steady hand to guarantee that right against pressures from the federal government. Lawrence Denny is that steady hand. His hand served our nation in Vietnam. His hand tilled the soil in rural Idaho and made crucial decisions as Speaker in the Idaho legislature. Lawrence Denny knows our values. He can carry on the tradition as Secretary of State. Protect your right to vote with experienced hands. Vote Denny for Idaho Secretary of State.
Hey, Denny for Idaho, Rick Howard, Treasurer.
Like most Idahoans, Senator Jim Risch shares the bootstrap roots that gives our state its independent character and strong values. Born into a working-class family, his dad, Elroy, was a lineman for the telephone company. Helen, his mom, worked in the school cafeteria. They stressed the importance of hard work and perseverance. He wasn't handed an education. He worked his way through college, working in kitchens and harvesting peas in the Palouse. Close to the U of I, where he earned degrees in forestry and law. He has served Idaho as a prosecuting attorney, state senator, lieutenant governor, and U.S. senator. Unimpressed with D.C. politics, Senator Risch fights the status quo and stands firm on the principles and beliefs expressed by the people of Idaho who sent him to Washington to represent them. On November 4th, let's make sure Jim Risch continues to fight for Idaho values in Washington.
I'm Jim Risch, and I approve this message.
Paid Risch for U.S. Senate.
All right, thank you very much. Hey, by the way, it's time for the weather. It's past time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you this hour by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, all from Lennox, and, of course, through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. Here now, Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zip at the Ranch. Still another good day today. We're looking for temperatures a little bit warmer today than was yesterday, although we're going to be in the low 60s. That's better than the low 50s. But otherwise, sun and cloud today, partly cloudy tomorrow, and also for the day after tomorrow. But otherwise, it's a nice, cool fall day in the Magic Valley. Enjoy the weather. Show over to you guys.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Brought to you this hour by Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Excellent, folks. Hey, by the way, real quick, you know what's going on at the Chadwick Sports Grill today, 139 West Main in Burley? Oh, listen to this. Everybody loves these. I wish I could go down there today. It's one of my favorites. Pulled pork burritos with Santa Fe rice and super salad. Oh, man, that is going to be good. You're going to enjoy it. You always do. That is just part of the great items on the menu today. The Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Once again, pulled pork burritos with Santa Fe rice. It is going to be delicious. Gina, real quick, I'll have you get on the program. I don't know about you, but when I listen to my dear friend Brian Fairchild, a man that knows because he's been there, done that, it's kind of a chilling conversation.
Very much so.
And when he starts talking about these lone wolves anywhere, anytime, you've got to be very wary and cognizant of your surroundings. That's why I brought it up to him. I think the American people, in many respects, are just naive because we've been, I think, treated too good too long.
I think we have been. We've been kind of cultivated, and we've made life too easy for ourselves, and it's not necessarily that, that's a bad thing, because we always want to improve things for the next generation, for our children, but we have made things just a little bit too easy.
I agree. Listen, you're doing a great job over there this morning. Appreciate it. And we're going to take a little break for about 6 minutes and listen to ABC News. Then we're going to come back with my buddy, Dr. History. Don't miss it. It's Tuesday. We'll be right back in 6. Oh my, good morning, welcome back, hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch, and of course, busy times right now, and Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, and they are Lee's Furniture, Floors and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today, call 734-6969. We got a lot of things cooking, and Dr. History will be with us in just a moment. Don't forget to, I know where to go for the best in physical therapy. I know where the best people are to help you with all your exercises, and where to go for the best of sports medicine. I know where the friendliest staff is. It's at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Nick Greenwell, physical therapist, heads up the whole operation, and every single person there knows how to help you get back to being and feeling like you. Great mixes of exercises. They've got the only pool around for the hydrotherapy. Please call them today, 678-1191. 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. We're going to go with our guest in just a moment. Don't forget to, Speaker of the House and Representative Scott Bedke from District 27 urges you to vote in the midterm election on November 4th. Scott is very concerned for Idaho and its growth and prosperity, and he urges you to go vote on November 4th. Yes is the vote we need for the constitutional amendment HJR2, paid for by Representative and Speaker of the House Scott Bedke of Oakley for District 27. Right now, let's get on the phone, and with us, Dr. Ken Turner, better known as Dr. History. Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing today?
I am great, and I'm all ready for another very stimulating and educational program on Dr. History, but I'm going to forewarn you, at 15 past the hour, I need it back for a break, just like we did last week, but we didn't.
I kind of got carried away, didn't I? I'm actually going to set my timer for 10 minutes.
All right. In that case, I'm going to go ahead and say you have the floor. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, over in Wyoming, they had a war called the Johnson County War.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have heard about this, but basically it was the big cattleman versus the little cowboy. Now, you would think that this would not be a conflict between the big cattleman and the little cowboy because, you'd think they would work together. But it didn't turn out quite that way. And so that's the story we're going to talk about, the Johnson County War.
All right.
Now, the American West had a share of grassland wars. They accounted for a lot of feuds and a number of deaths, yet by most accounts, the violence really wasn't that bad, involving really not that many people, and of course sometimes a sheriff or two that were maybe a little crooked, but the effects rarely had regional consequences, although a lot of times some of these feuds hung on for years or for generations between some of these groups. But for really sheer cussedness, bloodshed, courage, and stupidity, there was no conflict that really equaled the Johnson County War in Wyoming. Now, it's also sometimes referred to as the War on Powder River. And as I mentioned, it flared up between the big cattleman and the little cowboy.
Okay.
Now, as I said, these are two factions that had every reason to stick together. It just doesn't make sense. But Wyoming is a vast land, a few people, and it has always been this way. I mean, the grass is high, the summers are mild, the winters can be absolutely ferocious. But it is cattle country and formerly open range, and from the 1870s to the 1890s, it was actually largely controlled by foreign interests. Now, this sounds a little odd, and maybe people don't realize this, but Scottish and English people actually owned a lot of those ranches over there. And it is, and still is, it was, and still is, really the land of the cowboy when you think of cowboys. But some of the nation's largest ranches thrived during this period in Wyoming. But as I said, many actually were going bankrupt, and they didn't know it because the trouble stemmed largely from mismanagement by these absentee landlords. What they did is they took money out of the ranches and they plowed very little back in. And the owners pretty much looked on the cowboys more as a servant, really, than as a partner in their land. So now the Wyoming Stock Growers Association,
right?
That's the guys that basically were kind of the bad guys in this whole story. But they dominated Wyoming. They controlled the politicians, most of the newspapers, the courts. The association was largely made up, as I said, of foreigners, the railroads and large businessmen, and these guys were totally unsympathetic towards the cowboys. As I mentioned, they looked as more of a servant, really. Well, a severe drought struck during the summer of 1886, and it weakened the livestock. And when the wind whistled off those snow-capped peaks that fall, everything that lived crumbled beneath it. Cattle turned their tails into the gale and drifted before, stopping only when they hit an obstruction or a fence or a canyon filled with deep snow. And, of course, there they piled up and died by the thousands. Now, except for the buffalo slaughter, the high plains had never seen and would never see again such a massive and appalling death. Well, when spring came at last, 60% of the animals were dead or dying, so Wyoming was really a disaster. Now, at this point, the big cattlemen desperately needed loyal cowboys, and so they tried to buy and sell them on short notice. So, when not needed, the cowboys were discharged and told just to ride on. A so-called fair but reduced scale of wages went into effect, and this didn't sit too good with the cowboys. So the cowboys decided to go on strike, and they demanded $40 a month for everybody. However, as you know, cowboys are a little bit individual.
Oh, really?
For their own good, and the strike soon broke. They just kind of couldn't hold that together. So anyway, the cattlemen, who might have been charitable, decided to crush and humiliate and totally destroy the independent cowboy. So they blackballed the strike leaders, thus forcing them to either leave the state, or some of them actually went out and homesteaded and started their own little cattle spreads. And this is when mavericking. Now, mavericking is taking of an unbranded cow or calf that's abandoned or lost. You know, these poor orphans.
Yep.
And mavericking is collecting those cows, and that kind of became widespread. Well, this didn't sit too good with the association, and it prevailed upon the Wyoming legislature to pass a maverick law which made it illegal to do this. Now, the big ranchers refused to honor the institution of the grub line riding unless a cowboy paid 50 cents. Now, what grub line riding is basically in winter, hungry and out-of-work cowboys rode the grub lines from ranch to ranch, and they would get a free meal and shelter for the night. And so that's how they survived through the winter until the roundup started in the spring. Well, like I say, this directive closing down the grub lines kind of stunned even the working cowboys, and you know, the cooks in particular could not ask the drifters for 50 cents and look them in the eye at the same time, knowing that the cowhands didn't have 50 cents, and they'd have to ride away hungry and cold. So anyway, these harsh features or measures forced many an honest cowboy into killing and rustling stock, mavericking in order to survive. And as he did that, the Cattle Growers Association decided to crack down even harder. Now, according to the association, Wyoming was split between honest men and rustlers. And, of course, a rustler included not only those caught stealing cows, but those whose homestead included steers that they just figured this guy couldn't afford all those good steers. So the association decided to hire detectives, men who either bullied or took the cowboys to court. Well, this didn't really work because the juries were invariably made up of other cowboys.
All right, now I'm gonna interrupt you right there because I have to get my break in right now, and we're gonna come back to more of the Johnson County War over in Wyoming in just a moment. First of all, I want to remind you that we have two great sponsors on our program on Thursdays for Cassia County School Days. One, of course, is A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, always with everything you need for the babies and baby registries surprise if you're planning a baby shower. And they're having their 11th annual October treat sale, 25% off on all toys and books and family games and puzzles all the way through November 1st. Check it out at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, too, the great people at our friends at Ambulatory Surgery Center, always with a payment plan for your outpatient surgery needs, and they take most insurances. And also, if you're needing a life-saving colonoscopy, call them and find out more information at 677-8888. 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, along with A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Gina, if you're right by your tape recorder and also your computer, may I please have the good words for State Treasurer Ron Crane and HJR2.
On Election Day, Idaho voters should choose a state treasurer with a 16-year record of success in helping improve the lives of Idahoans. Treasurer Ron Crane has nurtured and grown the tax-deductible Ideal College Savings Program, which thousands of Idaho families now use to continue their children's education. And nearly 25,000 Idaho women have gained saving and investing skills through Ron Crane's popular Smart Women, Smart Money training program. Vote Ron Crane for treasurer, experienced investing, protecting Idaho's taxpayers.
Pay Crane for Idaho State Treasurer. Vote yes November 4th for HJR2, a constitutional amendment to keep the power of Idaho governance with the people. Vote yes on HJR2 to limit executive power over you and your business. Vote yes on HJR2 to keep your legislators working for your needs, not special interest groups. Vote yes on HJR2 to preserve the voice of we the people for the state of Idaho. Vote yes on HJR2. Paid for by Representative Fred Wood, House Speaker Scott Bedke, and Senator Dean Cameron. Vote yes on HJR2.
Thank you very much. And right now, here's Dr. History again, talking about the famous Johnson County War in Wyoming. Go ahead, Doc.
Right. Well, as I mentioned, anytime these guys came up to trial, the jury was made up of cowboys, so they never did get thrown in jail. But measures grew even tougher. In 1899, Ella Watson, better known as Cattle Kate, and a guy named James Averill, who was a postmaster, justice of the peace, and storekeeper, were actually lynched by these agents. And kind of a bungled execution. They didn't really do a very good job of it, but nevertheless, bushwhacking became kind of a common practice. Johnson County, reputed to be a stronghold of the rustlers, underwent pretty much a reign of terror. Now, in anger and frustration, the association plotted to burn northern Wyoming free of rustlers, especially the town of Buffalo, which was the county seat of Johnson County. Well, they drew up a death list allegedly containing the names of 70 men. Now, agents for the cattlemen showed up in Texas, where they recruited 22 gunfighters. Now, these hired killers were promised $5 a day and expenses, plus a $50 bonus for every rustler that they killed. Mm-hmm. Now, the Cheyenne Ring, which actually were elements of the powerful Growers Association, like I say, they financed this operation, and top politicians from the governor on down, they were involved at least to somewhat of an extent. They knew what was going on. But approximately 50 men made up of this invasion army from Texas were the guys that were actually going to do this killing. So these rough characters would be led by some 15 or 20 of the top cattlemen. Well, it never occurred to these invaders that the countryside would view them as anything other than good guys, instruments of justice.
Right.
So nobody seemed to understand that they might be the ones to be trapped and wiped out. So they were pretty certain of their success. So they took special care to neutralize the state militia should some local sheriff decide he wanted to restore order and make certain that the outside world knew nothing of this bloody episode until it was over with. So they actually cut most of the telegraph lines. Now, this so-called secret invasion, which was not much of a secret, pulled out of Cheyenne on Tuesday, April 5th, 1892. Now, behind its blacked-out windows were the invaders, horses, supplies, wagons, enough ammunition to kill everybody in 3 states. Hours later, the train chugged into Casper, Wyoming, and unloaded, and by early morning, the farmers plowing the fields remembered seeing a string of mounted riders silhouetted against the ridgeline. Well, in an assassination plot, the invaders planned to ride the Powder River country into Buffalo, county seat of Johnson County. There, they were going to execute the sheriff and the county commissioners, then kill the rustlers one at a time wherever they could find them.
Oh, my.
So when the invaders reached about 65 miles north of Casper, they changed their plans. Word came to them that a guy by the name of Nate Champion, he was known as a cattle rustler, the best known cattle rustler in Wyoming.
Yep.
Had never been indicted and was not, even though he was not wanted by the law. And anyway, over a dozen other suspected rustlers were holed up at a place called the KC Ranch. Now, the invaders, most of whom were now drunk and pretty tired and beginning to quarrel among themselves, decided to skip Buffalo for the time being until they took care of Nate Champion and his buddies. Well, that night, the invaders rode through a snowstorm, and when morning came, they had the KC Ranch surrounded.
Uh-oh.
Now, inside the house were two Teamsters who stayed for the night, along with Nate Champion and a partner by the name of Nick Ray. Now, at dawn, the Teamster steps outside, and since they were innocent, the invaders just took them prisoners. Well, when the Teamsters didn't return in a few minutes, Nick Ray came out of the house and glanced around. Well, without warning, a number of rifles cracked, and he fell.
Uh-oh.
Crawling on his hands and knees, he headed for the doorway, where another bullet struck him in the back. Well, Champion dashed outside and dragged him back in. Well, the siege was now on, and heavy gunfire was hitting the windows and the doors, and Champion tried to fire back, but he couldn't get any clear shots. But occasionally, he paused to write a diary. Now, that may sound a little odd, but he was describing his own frustration, his partner's agony and death, and he was describing the shooting as coming from the stable, the river, and the back of the house, and he wrote, "Boys, the bullets are coming in like hail." Notice I said hail.
Yeah, I know. I noticed how you cleaned up and changed the spelling. That's good. That's good.
All right. Now, the invaders now had to make a big decision. Should they continue with the present siege, or should they skip Champion for the larger objective of burning out Buffalo? Well, incredibly, these killers decided to stick with Champion.
Oh, my.
Kill him first, since they already had him trapped. So late that afternoon, the invaders shoved a wagon load with hay and pine nuts up against the wagon house, or the wood house, and set it on fire.
Mm-mm.
Now, at this time, again, it's a little odd, but Champion wrote in his diary, he said, it's not night yet. The house is all fired. Goodbye, boys, if I never see you again.
Oh, my.
That was his diary that he left.
Uh-huh.
Well, outside, there was a bunch of rifles covering the house with so much flame and smoke billowing forth. Most of the Texans figured the Champion couldn't survive. In fact, they thought he'd probably already committed suicide. Well, suddenly, a stocking-footed man sprinted from the burning doorway into the snow. In his hand, he held a rifle. He had a revolver sticking out of his belt. Well, of course, gunfire came from everywhere, and down he went. Nate Champion, king of the rustlers and the bravest man in Wyoming, lay dead. And someone scrawled a note saying, "Cattle thieves beware," and they pinned it to his bloody shirt.
Oh, my.
So he was an innocent guy, basically gunned down. So late that night, they resumed their march toward Buffalo. Well, the Texas gunslingers and the Wyoming cattlemen, still confident of their overwhelming strength as they proceeded along. Now, a Texan accidentally shot himself in the knee and actually became the first casualty.
Shot himself in the knee?
Shot himself in the knee. He died of gangrene.
I see.
So, well, by this time, the countryside swarmed with armed men, and sympathetic large ranchers warned the cattlemen that Buffalo was an armed camp with rustlers gathering there by the hundreds.
I see.
Well, the news shocked the invaders into realizing the kind of death trap they were in, and they retreated to a place called the TA Ranch, which is 15 miles from Buffalo, where they built fortifications. Wire went out to Cheyenne asking the state militia for protection, but due to the packs and cut telegraph lines, the message arrived in such a garbled condition that the politicians suspected it came from Johnson County authorities, and they sent no assistance.
Oh, my goodness.
So, anyway, before long, 300 or 400 small ranchers, which, of course, the invaders referred to as rustlers, they had the TA Ranch surrounded and were firing into it. Now, unfortunately, only a cannonball would penetrate those heavy walls, so the ranchers tried to borrow one from the military. Well, they wouldn't let them have it. But
yeah.
In the meantime, Governor Barber gradually realized that the invaders were on the verge of being destroyed, so he tried to get the state militia out, and they refused. they wouldn't go.
Oh, my.
So he actually wired President of the United States, Benjamin Harrison, for military intervention. And just like in the movies, the Army arrived just as the small ranchers were getting ready to wipe out the invaders.
Oh, my. That wouldn't have been the case had Obama been president then.
No. Well, incredibly, after all this gunfire, only one man had been wounded, and he would die. A Texan crawling along with a cocked pistol stuck in his belt accidentally caught the trigger on a twig, and the weapon discharged, the bullet striking him in a painful area.
I can imagine it was.
On Sunday morning, April 17th, the invaders were basically now prisoners and under heavy guard. They were moved out to Fort McKinney, and headed for Cheyenne. Basically, they left the state.
I see.
Anyway, the cattlemen, defendants went on trial in Laramie County, which is Cheyenne, but because, according to the judge, the community had no bias or prejudice, the judge dismissed the cases, so nobody was held accountable for all this.
Oh, my.
So in spite of a few additional murders and bushwhacking, which attempted to settle old scores, Johnson County and indeed all of Wyoming adopted an attitude of forget and forgive, and no doubt that's the best way. And that was pretty much the end of the story.
Okay, real quick question. I've only got 1 minute left, so give me a short answer. Wasn't this the same conflagration that Tom Horn was supposedly involved in?
You know, the story I'm reading here doesn't mention Tom Horn, but I recall him being involved in something like that.
Yeah. I'm positive it was the Johnson County War over in Wyoming, and they had accused him of shooting a young boy and put him in jail. I mean, the whole thing kind of, I think it was the Johnson County War, but let's check on that for next week, shall we?
I will do that. I'm glancing through my book right now, and I'm not seeing anything about Tom Horn, but I'll check that out.
Excellent story. Now, quickly, we are in how many countries and how many hits on Dr-History.com?
We're up to about 66,000 hits.
Wow.
And about 55 countries.
55 countries, and we still haven't severed relations with any of those countries.
No.
Okay.
I think we're doing maybe some good there, Zeb.
All right. Listen, Dr-History.com. Dr. History, Ken Turner, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You bet. You have a good day, Zeb.
All right. God bless you, man. Thank you.
Bye.
Excellent story about the Johnson County War. And I do believe that was the Tom Horn era of Wyoming also. Real quick, I want to remind you about Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Don't forget, whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will always enjoy the comfort. Call them at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Excellent, excellent people. Also, I want to remind you real quick about Senator Jim Patrick from District 25. He's been a local farmer for over 40 years, and he wants to say thank you to everybody that supported him. He appreciates everybody's support, and he wants your vote. He wants your vote again on November 4th. Please let your voice be heard. Jim has a deep understanding of agricultural issues and water issues. He's vice chairman of the Commerce and Human Resources Board and also on the Agricultural Affairs Board and Education Board. Don't forget, keep one of the best in the West right there serving us here in Idaho. Jim Patrick, Senator from District 25, paid for by Jim Patrick, Senate District 25. We're going to take a little break and send it back over to our main studios and then come back with a dear friend of mine, George Mass. Whew, don't go away. I'll be back in about 3.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Welcome back, and we're down the home stretch. And right now, Gina, if you would please, my dear lady, a good word for Lawrence Denny. I don't know if my message got through.
Idaho's right to vote is critical. We need a steady hand to guarantee that right against pressures from the federal government. Lawrence Denny is that steady hand. His hand served our nation in Vietnam. His hand tilled the soil in rural Idaho and made crucial decisions as Speaker in the Idaho legislature. Lawrence Denny knows our values. He can carry on the tradition as Secretary of State. Protect your right to vote with experienced hands. Vote Denny for Idaho Secretary of State.
Hey, Denny for Idaho, Rick Howard, Treasurer.
Thank you very much and welcome back. And by the way, the coordination here, Gina is helping me so much with all the taped commercials over at our main studios, and I thank her so much. Thank you, Gina. And right now we're going to introduce a dear friend of mine, old as he is. Hello, George Mass. How are you?
Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
It's good to see you again. George, you have been instrumental in so many community projects and done so much for the city of Rupert and around the area, and instrumental in starting up a great youth flag organization called the Youth for Liberty. And then also, I think it's been, a year and a half ago, you started a project called the Memorial Monument over in Rupert. And tell us a little bit about that.
That was about 2 years ago, Zeb. I spent probably 6, 7, 8 months researching, make sure that we could fly the flag at half-staff for the memorial for Idaho fallen soldiers. Everything I found states that the federal code, which the American Legion wrote right after World War II and Congress adopted it, it states that civilian organizations or groups are not bound by federal code. It is merely a guideline, and that was signed by President D. Dwight Eisenhower.
Okay.
And anyway, we had a complaint on the flag flying at half-staff.
Now, this is a flag. Let's really be clarifying this. This is a flag that flies right over the Memorial Monument.
Yes.
And it is to honor the fallen, and it's flying at half-staff.
It was. It's at full staff now, and I need to explain to all of my supporters on this. We run into a snag when I first flew that half-staff. I neglected to get a proclamation from the governor.
Okay.
So we hit the governor up, and he gives a proclamation. Well, I guess there's a statute in the Idaho Code that does not allow him to do that. It has to go before Congress.
It has to go before the legislature.
Yes.
Okay.
But anyway, there's a lot of rumors coming out that, and I want to clarify this, that he did it on account of votes and all this, and that is not true. To the best of my knowledge, it's just because we've got a statute that we've got to get fixed.
All right, so basically you had the flag at half-staff over the monument with a proclamation from the governor.
Yes.
And it could only be that way for a certain period of time, and without the legislature changing it to a full-time basis. Is that correct?
That's what I gather. I'm not. I don't have all the details on that, but he did not have the statute to put it at full-time half-staff.
Okay. I guess an obvious question I've got for my listeners is if this is it's a private monument, is that correct?
It's a private monument put on city property.
All right. And your contention is that a private monument on city property, what's the city's stand about the full or half-staff on the flag?
99.9% of them are flying the flag at half-staff.
I see.
We just have one that's marginal, go either way on it, but the city supports 110%.
What's the argument against flying the flag at half-staff? Explain that to my audience.
We have a gal that come in out of Sacramento, California a few years ago, and she didn't like it at half-staff, and she got hold of one of our council members, and they would not reveal her name so we could get this worked out, and the city stood firm on it. And this Sue Kennedy is who it is, sent an email to the Chamber of Commerce. I talked to Kay Cameron. She said she didn't know where to send it. One went to Kelly Anthon. I've got the other one because I put it in and have maintenance on it. And if I may quote from the letter she sent that she's objecting, it says...
you're going to have to talk right into that microphone, George. Your voice is real soft.
Okay, in the argument she has, she says we cannot fly that flag at half-staff without the President of the United States or the Governor of Idaho to issue a proclamation, which we did. Well, that evidently didn't satisfy her, so she went to Boise, and the governor had to pull it on account of a statute, and so the flag is flying full staff.
All right, turn that mic a little bit, George, so you talk right there. You go there. All right.
But anyway, that I've feel, and I've got the support of every veteran organization in Minnecasia except the one that's the Albanian American Legion, and I have not heard back from them one way or the other.
Okay, so now let's clarify that every armed services organization that you've talked to has been in agreement with you that they would support the half-staff status of the flag?
Yes, sir. Everyone sent me a letter, and Zeb, in that packet I give you, you got a letter. It's been sent to all of our congressmen, the city council, mayor, all of them has that.
What about the legislature? Are you going to make overtures for them to discuss this in the next legislative session?
Yeah, I think I'm going to work on that. There is a a flag flying at half-staff over Teru Der Union Monument in Comfort, Texas.
I see.
And that honors the fallen Union soldiers.
I have the letter here from the American Legion post in Rupert, and that you have given me, and it's a to whom it may concern. May I read this on the air, or would you rather have me not read it?
No, it's public information.
Okay. To whom it may concern, American Legion Post 10 does not, and I might emphasize there, folks, that the word not is in heavy dark ink. I'll repeat that sentence again. The American Legion Post 10 does not oppose the flying of the American flag at half-staff over the Idaho Roll Call Monument on 6th and Scott Street in Rupert. It goes on to say, it is seen as a symbol of respect and mourning for our fallen military soldiers and those who are still missing in action and prisoners of war. There are other paragraphs in the letter, but I think that's the most poignant right there.
It is, and from what the closest I can gather, Sue has never confronted anybody, not even the city council. I was called in the office and asked if I knew this lady, and I said no. But anyway, she hid behind emails and got it done. But from what I gathered, she went to the state American Legion, and they talked to the governor, and they found a statute that couldn't do it. Finding that out, I got a hold of Helms. He is the national commander for the American Legion, and I sent an email to him.
Okay.
And he turned it over to Michael Buss, and I'll read the email that he sent me.
Now, Michael Buss is who?
He is the, let me find it here, the Deputy Director of Americanism Division.
Okay, all right.
His email quote is, "It is certainly your post prerogative if you desire to seek out a gubernatorial proclamation for the United States flag to be displayed at half-staff on a constant basis. Thank you for your membership and patriot concern."
You know, George, when I think back, I don't see what the rub is. I mean, you're trying to honor and show a great sensibility and sense of caring towards the soldiers that have fallen with this monument. And if the American Legion Post 10 and others do not oppose the flying of the American flag at half-staff over this Idaho Roll Call Monument, why are they paying so much attention to one person's dissent?
Zeb, it took one person to get power out of school.
Yeah.
It's taken one person. They're working to get the flag out of the school.
Yeah.
One person to get the Pledge of Allegiance out.
Right.
One person to take away Christmas. One person.
Yeah.
That's it.
And you've put a lot of time and effort into this, and this project is near and dear to your heart, isn't it?
It is. A couple of years ago, I had the honor and privilege to help escort a fallen comrade back out of Boise to Rupert.
Right.
We hit Burley exit from there, clear to the Rupert Cemetery with a solid line of people, flags, fire trucks, police escorts, everything, paying due respect. We laid him to rest.
Yeah.
We talked about it 2 or 3 weeks, and then we forgot. The monument, every time you go by, I drive by it daily when I went to work out at Sequim. I look at that and I just think of the price that was paid to give me my freedom.
George, there are those, and I'm just throwing this out for a little devil's advocacy for the conversation, and I want you to respond in kind. But there are those that say, George, what difference does it make if the flag flies at half-staff or if it's at full staff? How would you respond to that?
This is a memorial. the soldiers that this memorial represents died for Old Glory. I'm sure she wouldn't mind coming down and flying half-staff to protect them.
Absolutely.
And it also gives the family comfort. Zeb, I've been by there numerous times. 4th of July, there's flags all around that. People's come in, put them in one by one. Memorial Day, there's flowers on that, same as the POW bench. Christmas, there's wreaths. It brings comfort to the family, and it does absolutely not hurt anyone. And it is flown with due respect. It is lit. Everything is to code. It's where it should be.
You're not going to weaken on this, are you?
No, I am not.
And I respect you for that. What about any other support for you personally? I mean, are you one man standing on an island, or do you have quite a few people that are standing there with you?
Well, it was pretty much me, and a few of the city roopers backed me 110%. But I've met with some of the veteran groups and with the letters that you can read later. I've got 110 support, and one thing about this controversy did bring every union together, and we're together as one on this issue.
I personally, and I don't know the lady that you're talking about in question. I've never met her, never talked to her or anything. But we have a caller coming in, and then we'll do a weather forecast. And I'd urge her to call right in this morning if she's listening and discuss this over the air.
Yeah, it's all been emailed. She's just never been up front to confront nobody.
The first time
Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
I'm just getting damn sick and tired of the minority telling the majority how to eat, drink, walk, do everything.
So in other words,
crying shame.
In other words, your opinion is, and I'm going to have you explain it a little further, your opinion is that if this monument is to honor the fallen military soldiers, and George has jumped through all the protocol with the lighting system and everything, and the flag at half-staff to honor those military soldiers, let it be and leave it alone. That's your feeling?
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think a woman from Sacramento, California, she needs to go back to Sacramento, California. Thank you, Zeb.
All right. God bless you, sir. Thank you. You know, George, I don't blame people for being concerned about whether the flag is flown rightly or wrongly, but I think over something like this where you've put all your blood, sweat, and tears into this honoring our fallen military soldiers and jumped through the protocol and have approached the governor with letters, and I personally was a part of the ceremony to honor the fallen military soldiers with the induction of this site over in Rupert. I was very proud to be there that evening. I can't imagine why anybody would want to fight you on this.
I don't either, Zeb. I've asked the city council member that she approached and everything else. I tried to get her name. They wouldn't give me her name. I said, just let me talk to her, see if we can't get this worked out. It's a shame it's had to go this far.
I agree. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. You know, that's probably the nicest monument anywhere in the state of Idaho that honors our POW, MIA, and our people that have been killed in action, and any of our veterans. I don't know of another one that's near as nice. And for somebody to attack that, to me, it's totally un-American. It's just not right.
All right. Well, Jerry, I agree with you, and I know the effort that George and Donna Mass put into this monument and to honor our military and also for an honoring of the city of Rupert. I'm really hurt that someone would tear it apart.
Well, you know, it isn't. The city of Rupert donated that ground.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that happened there, and it's just a shame that some half-baked idiot, and that's what I'm going to call the person that did it, would be able to do that much damage. And it's only one person. It's just a crying shame that they can even start to do anything at all. They should be shut up and done away with.
Jerry, thank you for your call.
Day, and may the Lord bless.
All right, sir. Thank you. You know, you said something earlier, George, and I'm going to break for a weather forecast here in just a second, but, you know, it seems like today one person doesn't like something. They don't like a certain news story. They don't like a certain name on a football or a basketball team, whatever, and they raise whatever happened to majority rules.
That's going along the wayside if we all lay down, and I will not lay down on this issue.
I agree, and I respect you for that, too. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a Michael Rogers weather forecast coming up right now, and it's brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. And number to call, 324-7657. They are your hometown meat cutter and locally owned custom meat processor. George, hold the paper still. And they sell taste one bite at a time, and they guarantee everything that they sell. And smoked hams and smoked turkey. Oh, Thanksgiving around the corner. You better order yours right now. It's Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road in Jerome, 324-7657. Caller, I'll be with you in a minute. Right now, here is Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zip at the Ranch. Another good day today. We're looking for temperatures a little bit warmer today than was yesterday, although we're going to be in the low 60s. That's better than the low 50s. And otherwise, sun and cloud today, partly cloudy tomorrow, and also for the day after tomorrow. But otherwise, it's a nice, cool fall day in the Magic Valley. Enjoy the weather, show. What do you got?
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by our friends Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Selling taste one bite at a time. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tiger George. You hang in there, buddy. I'll tell you what I believe. If that woman wants to complain, she better shut her mouth up about our flag flying at half-staff, honoring our veterans and that. She better start worrying about when that flag is upside down. Then she can complain about it.
I agree, Al. Very well stated, sir. Thank you so much.
This is getting ridiculous. What we're letting get along by one person that's come up here from California like they always do and spread their lying and hate and their liberalism. I'm sick and tired of it.
Well, Al, we know where you stand, and I respect you for it. Thank you very much.
Keep it up.
All right, sir. George, have you talked to this lady at all, or in the emails, has she stated a position as to why she wants and will demand that the flag is always at full staff?
No, she has not contacted me. Just email is all. And the sad thing about it, Zeb, I believe she retired out of the Air Force.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
But you know,
is this a workable solution? Let's just use the assumption that she's listening to this broadcast this morning and she realizes how much of the absolute pain and suffering and everything else that went into getting this monument and the reasons for this monument. And would you sit down with her and try to work out a solution to this thing, or is it beyond that point?
No, it's not beyond that point. I do not want to drag this monument through the mud. I've asked the person that she went through to give me her name and phone number, just let me talk to her, and they refused. Mm-hmm. And it's just she's hiding in the bush. You know, and that's wrong.
And that's what bothers me. You know, if somebody doesn't have the decency or the moral courage to stand up and address a problem and address the other side, I don't give their point of view very much credence.
She never approached any, to my knowledge, about all of the veteran organizations here. I don't think she approached one.
Okay.
She went to Boise too. I think she went to state.
Okay.
But if I might make a comment real quick.
No, go ahead, please.
The memorial represents our comrades who died to preserve Old Glory, to preserve what Old Glory represents, and serve proudly with her flying overhead. I'm sure Old Glory wouldn't be offended to fly half-staff to show them her respect to the fallen that died for her.
Let's back up just a little bit, George. And of course, you're a former retired United States Navy. But what is the meaning, if you will, for my audience, and perhaps younger people that are listening, about the flag flying at half-staff?
Flag at half-staff pays tribute to the fallen, to people that had died, given their lives for her. And that does not, and what's really sad and really burns me, Zeb, we lost 5 Marines here 3-4 weeks ago. I don't know if the flag is flown half-staff for it, but when you have a celebrity OD on drugs, they order that flag at half-staff immediately. That is bullcrap.
Yeah. Now, the flag at half-staff, is it something that, how many days normally does the flag be allowed to fly at half-staff for a fallen member of the military?
It's usually 30 days.
30 days.
But you can pull it back up.
I see.
Take it full mast, bring it back down again.
I see.
But it is the one I made the comment earlier in Comfort, Texas, that flies 24/7 at half mast to pay tribute.
Yeah, and this is a memorial for those that have passed away in service to their country.
Yeah, died in combat, fighting for her.
And so there, I can understand totally why you're saying that the flag should be at half-staff 24/7.
I agree. You know, we put in the the POW Memorial Bench.
Right.
Absolutely not. Old Glory needs to fly high on that one.
Absolutely.
On a memorial, you pay tribute to the fallen.
So where do you go from here, George? What are you going to do?
Well, I guess I have to get involved in politics, I guess, but it's going to go forward.
Okay. Don't weaken, my friend.
Oh, I won't.
No,
you
never.
got my word on that.
You know, I admire you and I respect you, and the reason I say that is because when you are committed to something, not you personally, but anybody else that's listening, when you're committed to something and there's a right and a wrong and there's feelings of accomplishment, never weaken, never back up, never shut up from anybody that complains.
That is right, Zeb, and I've researched this. I started this about 2 years ago, and it didn't go in until a year ago last June.
That's right.
And so I did probably 8 months of really heavy research, make sure I've got it put in right, nobody got offended, meeting all protocol.
Yes.
And I met every bit of it.
I remember that very well. We talked about it many times. We've got time for one more caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Did Rupert City Council vote to not allow this flag to fly at half-staff?
Can you repeat? I didn't hear that.
Say it again, caller, real fast, please.
Did the Rupert City Council vote to not allow that flag to fly at half-staff?
I don't know for sure whether they voted on it. I know the governor pulled a proclamation we had, and respectfully, Rupert had to follow protocol.
Well, it doesn't look to me like they should have to do anything unless that issue is brought before the council in a public meeting, and that woman can register her complaint there. And then they can discuss it and make a decision as a group. There's not one individual councilman that has the authority to tell anybody to do anything.
That's right.
The governor has the authority to issue or rescind the POW, or excuse me, half-staff.
But it also has...
I understand that, but what if you had a bronze statue that depicted a flag at half-staff? Does that mean that monument would have to be changed, or is it because we have a cloth flag? I guess my point is that this woman should be trying to help you. She wants to have the flag respected appropriately, but it sounds like she just keeps throwing up a block every you answer her question, and then she's not satisfied.
I don't know.
These people leave California because they don't like what's going on, and they bring those ways with them.
All right, caller, I appreciate your call. I'm almost out of time, and I certainly do appreciate your point of view and your perspective. Thank you very much. George, I'm just going to say this. I think that you should jump through all the hoops. You should make sure that you go through the proper procedure and protocol, approach the legislature, approach the governor, approach the Rupert City Council, everything. I think that you should be impeccable about what you do to try to get this reinstated. Real quick, I'll give you 30 seconds.
I am, Zeb. I'm going forward with it. I've got a lot of people that's aboard with me that got some pull, I guess, in that. And also I'd like to say anybody that wants to answer this, whether it's positive or negative, either call your elected officials, put it in sound off, get the word out.
All right, George Mass, thank you very much, and best wishes with the monument that you have over to honor our fallen military soldiers. Thank you.
You bet, and I want to thank everybody that supported me.
All right, George Mass, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a huge tire sale going on right now. The Terramax HT, the Wildcat AT2, Open Country AT2, Eclipse, Eclipse, Ultra Z900. The list goes on and on for all the tires for all your different vehicles. Big tire sale right now, along with many of the custom chrome wheels. The best in brake service, the best in front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. Got to have a good battery. They've got the best. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run tomorrow on the program. Excellent program tomorrow. Doug Johnson from Colorado, Rusty Satterfield from Twin Falls, Dave Bigo from Indianapolis, Indiana, and best-selling author, we've got Carter Andrus. Going to be very interesting, and we'll look forward to having you be with us at 8:06 tomorrow. The way things were, or the way things ought to be. Thanks, Gina. See you tomorrow morning.